Hey guys, uh, I just wanted to show you a little bit more modeling, and we can see I have this room lit. We'll get into that in just a little bit right now, because there's different types of rendering. But I want to show you, this was just a little scene, so I could do it along with you, that I quickly created and modeled out some stuff real fast that could be on the shelf, give you ideas. Haven't fully fleshed it out, started a plant, did a TV set and some speakers and a table. And now we approach, like, suppose we wanted to do a couch. So I'm just going to do this really simple, really fast. And I created a cube and I got it at essentially the size of the base that I would want for this couch. And a little bit smaller actually, because I'm imagining this is going to be a fairly big couch. But I still want the armrests and stuff. And really, this is going to be dependent on the style that you're going for. But it's good to have your reference here and imagine the back piece and how long the legs are, the knee to the back of the buttock, which is what would be about the length of the edge here to there. And different people will be different ways, but you also have to imagine there's going to be a cushion on here as well, so that you don't want the base to be as high as the knee. It should be a little bit, just a touch lower, so that we can have the cushions on there. So what I'm going to do is I made this base, and now I'm going to go into face mode, and I'm going to select both the sides. One side, shift, the other side, select, and I'm going to extrude those, and I could use the thickness to pull it out. I could also just pull it by the blue arrow, and I'm just imagining it only has to be the thickness of the armrests that are going to pop up that I'm going to want to put on there. Okay, and then I'm going to select, which deselects everything else. I just left mouse click. I don't want to add to the selection. You'll see why in a second. I select that, shift select, so I've got the whole back. I extrude, and I'm just going to pull that out so that I make kind of almost like a perfect square, or relatively close to one, on either corner. The reason I'm doing this is because these are the faces that I'm going to extrude upward to actually be the back and the armrest of this couch. Now before, well, actually I'll do it and then I'll show you why, but I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and just move it aside so you can see why I'm doing it this way. And just so you can see where all the faces are, I'm going to turn on the this little guy here, which is the wireframe shaded mode, so I can see where all of my edges are. And once again, that was just this little guy right here. I'm going to face mode and select what would be the back and the armrest. Now, whether I grab all of them at the same time or just separate them is dependent on how your couch is put together. But I'm going to extrude this. I'm just going to pull it straight up. And then I have to decide, how high is this? Is it one of those couches where the pillows on the back go higher? Does this bend backward? Does this back piece extend higher than the armrest? And if that were the case, then I would just grab whatever I needed, whether it was just the center or these three right here, and extrude them upward, and then could mess around with that. But it's really going to depend on what your design is, and I could just even pull it back a little bit, so because having that straight back is pretty kind of painful. So just giving it a slight slant there might actually work a little bit better. Now the reason I duplicated this one, and I haven't put pillows or extended the back out yet, but I wanted to show you. The question comes in is like, oh, why don't you just pull the whole thing up and then just extrude this piece down? And I can't really do that effectively, because if I do, just so you can kind of see this, if I had this up and then said, oh, hey, why don't I just take this part here and extrude it down, it does this. There's still all these faces here, even if they're sitting on top of each other. And then I'd have to delete them, and then I'd have to do cleanup, and then I might miss something, and I have these extra edges that are going to be there. It just becomes a mess. So the general idea is really just to kind of go, go with what we need and extend out what we need, and then you don't have that weird cleanup. And from here, I just have a lot of options of what I could do, where I could just take that back piece if I wanted to now and just extrude that. Maybe even tighten that up a little bit and then push it back a little bit. Sometimes you just want to use the scale tool just to even things off, and then I can round that up a little bit. Then we can tighten, I'm sorry about the wall, tighten that up just a wee bit. I'm not too worried because I'm gonna round it off. Right now it's very boxy and kind of painful looking, but that's okay. But just to give you, actually I'm gonna back out of that just so you can kind of see, but you decide from here. And this is basically how you would do just that frame. Now if I hit, here's one other thing. This looks really boxy. If I press the number 3, it turns into a glob. And what that is that's showing, let me duplicate this again. It's always a good idea before you go crazy on stuff to duplicate it. What this is basically the same as in the refrigerator demo, where there's not enough edges when we smooth this to retain its shape. So once again, if I wanted to do that, I would have to either A, add the edges as I need to. You can bevel the whole thing, but it can get pretty messy. And that can be a real problem. So when I do this, and we could see, oh, it's not too bad because it was relatively simple. That's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. If I had a bunch of interior divisions and stuff, then it would start to get pretty hair-raising. That's actually not that bad. So that's using the bevel, which subdivides the edges, not the entire model like all the larger surfaces, but the corners. And you can see we can increase it if we wanted to, just to make it a little bit smoother. That's actually not that bad. I think I will go with that. We'll trade you. Denied. And what that did was that rounded off and softened the edges. There's still a little bit of like imperfections, but if we consider that this is a couch, it's going to start to be worn. Where I see a little bit of the buckling almost makes sense. And then that would just leave the pillows. And if I were to divide this, 3, we go to our insert edge loop tool, double click to get it to the tools right here. insert all multiple edge loops. Boom. And now I know that this is divided up so that if I make a pillow that fits in this section, it will fit perfectly in these other sections. And that's just a nice quick way so I don't have to keep on resizing as I go along. These are now my guides. So that when I actually make a cube now, I have a frame of reference of how big and how large that's supposed to be. So that I know that if it, and I pressed F to zoom in, I know that if it fits here, it'll fit for all those other segments. This is another one of those times where I could either add edges and start to do stuff, or if I just want to do a very quick and dirty, not dirty, but just a very fast way of putting a generic couch in here, I can do my bevel. Add some segments to it. And I can adjust how rounded it is. You see that? And I'm middle mouse dragging. And then I just have to scale it so that it actually snugly fits within that area. And I might just go in and add one division. Press B for that soft select and then hold it down, holding down the letter B and middle mouse button and moving the mouse left to right to drag so that I can increase that selection a bit. And then just scale it out from the center. That looks a little nicer. And now if I go back into object mode, duplicate that. That's showing me it's a little bit too big. It's going a little too far. So we'll tuck that in a little bit. Actually, if I have them both selected and just tuck them in a little bit, that's better. Yeah, it's much better. And it's actually okay if they're kind of just a little bit. You can even just edit them a little bit so that they're kind of pushed in a little. And you decide what look you're going for. And then you would just use a similar situation for the back. Cool thing is I could just take one of these, duplicate it, and I'll just show you a quick trick, and then that's it. We rotate this, we scale it down a wee bit, but it's a little too much like that. I want to tweak this out. So I'll go back to my Insert Edge Loop tool. Let's make this more dense. Let's add 5 one way, 5 the other. The reason I did that is that now I can, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to smooth this so you can see what happens. I'm going to smooth it, which makes it even more dense. It's been subdivided. That's a lot of detail. And I don't have to do it that much, but I want you to see something. If I actually go double click, so I grabbed that, turn on the soft select, but only just a little bit. Now scale that out. Check that out. We can have this nice little kind of seam inside of there. See that? And then I can just double click these guys here on either side. Which one would that be? This one there. Turn off the soft select. Here's a little trick. And I can go under let's see, we want to adjust. Of course, they moved it again. Driving me nuts. This is why I have my shelf. But what I want to do is I want to harden those edges. And I actually have on my shelf, boop, I can harden them. And you see they got a little sharper. And if I scale them to each other like this, check this out. Boom. That's got this little nice detail that's there. And I could have put it around the edges or something like that. And then I could easily just grab a point. Just tuck that in. And then you have that little indentation that's there. And then last but not least, and then we'll call it a day, I could just make a tiny little, oops, not polygon, I mean not NURBS, polygon sphere. Just going to make a small one. And that's a little too dense for what I need. I don't need it to be that dense, so I can go over into my channel box, select the axis and the height, and just cut that down a bit to something like that. Flatten this guy out. There's another little trick. Hold down the letter V, left mouse click, and you could snap it right to a point. So that's holding down the left mouse button and the letter V, and you can take an object and snap it to a point. Now all I gotta do is just pull that like so. And I could soften that so it's not quite as there we go. So just, not the most designed, incredible looking pillow, but I just wanted to show you some different little things that you can do with it. And then I would just combine these. Kind of grandma's, but that's okay. Grandma's cool. And then I could just take, here's the last trick, that one face, double click, left mouse, and you notice I've grabbed the entire bar, that entire line. Now if I use just a little soft select there, I can actually just, that's nice. Just tweak it out a little bit. Kind of a granny couch, but that's okay. It has no plastic covers on it. Because I increased their length, they're a little bit tight, so I'm just going to shrink them down just a wee bit, just so they fit just a little bit better. You can always just do like little bitty tweaks just to make sure they fit. And that's it. Now we've got our little couch here. We could even add some divisions and push that in if we want to look like, wow, this person just sits in that one spot all the time. Let's just grab these and just pull them back a little bit. There we go. Down just a smidge. There we are. And that's how you can do a couch.